Live. Hopefully that works. Hey everyone, sorry I'm a minute late. Just trying to, as usual, figure out the beauty of OBS in all its complexity. But I think I've got it sorted now. I'm just going to blow your minds by wiggling around this Ableton project. As that's what I said I'd do on this live stream. So thanks for joining me. We're going to be going through some tracks, some subscribers tracks today. I've just randomly selected them, so I had loads of people send them in. Loads, like, I don't know if it's hundreds, but it's up there. So I don't have time to go through all of them. But we're going to get through as many as possible. And if yours aren't here today, like, there's so much good stuff that's going to be applicable to your music. But just let me know if you're in the chat so I can kind of see what's going on. Can I actually use the chat? Let's see, I might go over to the YouTube screen. There you go, cool. Hey all, can you hear me okay? I'll assume you can, just put like yes if you can hear me. And I'll just check the volume of the sound as well. So just let me know if you can hear this too. Let's fast forward a bit. Don't worry, I'm not starting yet. I will in a minute. But can you hear the audio from Ableton? Yes, sweet. Okay, I'm just going to assume that it's all working now. Excellent, cool. I set it up right. Nice. So we're going to kick things off. This is the second ever EDM Tips track clinic where I actually pick apart project files. If you don't have Ableton, it's fine, because some of our accelerator students don't use Ableton, and then we can just work with stems. But it's easier, or we get more control if we can actually dig into the project file itself. Cool. So quiet track. Okay, mic volume. Right. If the tracks are quiet, then I might just, against my usual advice, whack a limiter on the end just to bring up the volume. Although I don't recommend doing that, because then you're going to be compressing the sound as well. But let's just see if this is how quiet this is. Yeah, it's a bit quiet. So we could actually turn it up a bit like that. Just a tiny bit of clipping. And I've also got the notes of what people were submitting as well, which is going to help. So if we open up that document, then I've actually got the notes of what people have written. So this first track, we kick things off. This is actually Fraser, who I saw was messaging from Bali. Is it the same Fraser? Oh, Bali. Good for you. Good for you. Yeah, I love Bali. Is that the Fraser from Bali? Track volume low. Okay, let's see if I can actually bump up the track volume in the live stream as well. Loop back audio. Let's have a butcher's, shall we? So that should be a bit better, because I've just bumped it up. And then we'll kick things off. Okay, so that's better, a bit louder, awesome stuff. Right, so this first track, as I said, is from Fraser, who is the jammy so-and-so messaging from Bali. And Fraser is looking for advice on mixing and mastering. So yeah, I would say that you're probably right to a large degree, but there's some sound selection in here that could be tweaked as well. So if we just loop the main part of the track, so this for example, and everyone in the chat, just let me know where you're calling in from. It's nice to see the worldwide community. Okay, so what I do when I've got a track that I'm mixing, and what we recommend to our accelerator students, is to approach it from the most important element and then work backwards from there. I call it the top-down mixing approach. I think there's actually a technical process called that, which is not the same as what I do, but hey, I made my one up, so I'm sticking with it. So the first thing I would do is I would definitely separate out your kick and your bass. your kick and your rest of your drums, because you want the controller being able to process that separately. So let's just duplicate the kick to give you an example of the kind of levels we should be hitting. So this is the kick, which we can see. It's frozen, so I can just paste the freeze there. And we want our kick to be peaking at -12 dB. Like, that's a great place to start your mix, because it just means that you're not going to run into clipping issues on the master channel. So let's look at the mix scene, and I'm just going to loop that first kick. Let's bring it up a bit. I mean, the balance is pretty good against the drums. I think the hi-hat's a little bit loud. So I'm going to delete this for a second. So we just got the kick. In fact, I'm going to delete that kick and then just use our one. So now we can get it peaking at about -12, which is there, and then mix the rest of our track in. The trouble is we've still got the kick in the... that's pretty good actually. Yeah. So after that, then I would mix the bass in. So let's get the bass. That's cool. I think the kick needs to be slightly louder though compared to the rest of the drums. That's the trouble. Like, this drum's too loud. But because it's frozen, I can't really play with it. Oh, I know, I'll just unfreeze it. Sorry guys. I'm going to give 10 minutes to each track. I've got a timer, so that's how we're going to roll it. So yeah, this is what I would do. Let's just bring down some of these levels. As I said, I'd have the kick on a different track, really. Already. And it's very common for people to put the hi-hats a little bit too loud. It's very common indeed. And there's a lot of stereo width in this bass. And that could mean that you're going to have phase cancellation issues. So that's pretty good now. Like, just that small tweak. And the thing is, quite often you can be a lot closer than you think to a good sounding track, and it's just rebalancing the levels that makes a big difference. Let's just see if anyone kind of, anyone's there in the chat. Excellent. Loads of people. Chicago, Netherlands, Norway, USA, Poland, Sweden, worldwide, baby. Yeah, I mean, just taking that... Just taking that hi-hat down has made a big difference in terms of the balance. Okay, so what this track now is lacking is like a 16th groove. So at some point you're going to want to bring in a 16th groove to get the kind of shuffle going for this genre of music. You could do that with a loop, or you could program it in. So that's a good opportunity to just bring another element into the track. And I really, really recommend using reference tracks. Like, if you've got a reference track in the same style you're making, you don't need to guess where stuff goes. You can just use the reference to help inform you what should be coming in at what point. And the biggest mistake I see new producers making is trying to be original too soon before they know how to make something that sounds good, because they think they're somehow special. Honestly, the quicker that you can get over that, and the quicker that you can reference other music, the faster you will get good. Every single producer in the world references other music, whether they know it or not. So now, let's add that 16th groove for this point in the track. Maybe try a few different sounds in there to try find one that sounds good. Like that sounds pretty cool. But what I want to do is just add a little bit of groove to that to make it kind of duck in time with the kick, just a little bit. So what I'll do is I'll put a, it doesn't matter if you use shaper box or LFO tool, just something to help sidechain compress it against the kick. You could use a sidechain compressor. Uh-oh, is that crashing? That's not opening up for some reason. So I'm going to program that difference in just by having smaller or quieter hats at the beginning, like this. And it's going like that, which is kind of what a sidechain compressor would do. So now you've got this kind of groove going on. And at some point you'll probably want a full-on open hat in there as well, or a ride cymbal to go like tss, tss, tss. So you've got a great starting groove, and it's a real moody track. I love it, but it needs to develop. So I would say that's more important than the mixing. The only thing that I would have changed is just bring down the other hat, like the hat and the clap slightly against the kick. But apart from that, it's pretty good. And let's just add some, a top tip for everyone. If you route a global reverb, like a short reverb like this, with under half a second decay, like this, right, let's just put it down there somewhere, and then route that with your drum rack like this, you can then feed a little bit of each drum that you want to the reverb, which just will transform your mix. So check this out. Let's just add a few things to some of those drums. So we're not adding reverb to all of the drums, just the ones that we want to. So that would not be the kick, but maybe it would be the clap. So now, we'll add a little bit of the reverb to the vocal, and that's going to gel everything together. So this is before, and now, and then the last is the drum that I just added, which is this one. Let's add some to that. Hear that difference? Yeah, so lovely track there. Let's see what people are saying in the track. Fraser, glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, it's a cool groove there. Like it very much. Cool. So next we are going to go over to Cole, who is an accelerator student. And if you've ever booked an accelerator call or you're thinking about it, you might speak to Cole because he's part of the team as well as a accelerator student. But he's got this track, a label wants to sign it, but they've given him some feedback that they want to tweak the bass slightly. I want him to tweak the bass slightly. So it's a big project. I'm going to see what's, see if it opens up. And what we can also do is open up the wave file that he's given me, and we can even just use that. And that's going to give us a little bit more. Ah, there we go. We've got it. Cool. It's a big file, so it's opening up. I don't have all the plugins, which is why we're just going to kind of look at the we'll look at the wave file first. So I'm just going to drag it in. So it's called Astrophilia. And let's just see if it's all lined up with the actual project. Yes, lovely jubbly. And I'll turn it down a little bit. Oh, good. No, we've got the master channel off, so it should not be too loud. Let's have a listen. Ooh. Nice, mate. Nice triplets. Lovely track, Cole. Awesome. So I think we could just bring up the mid bass, really. I'd like to check out the frequency spread for this one. So I'm not going to use span because it's taken to kind of crashing my computer sometimes. So I'm going to open up the Pro Q3. I need to get the Pro Q4 installed actually as well. It won't make any difference, but it's nice to stay up to date. So none of the plugins are opening up, and I do not know why. This is kind of a bit concerning. I think it's probably to do with my screen sharing. Let's see if we can see that in OBS. No, we can't. Right, because it's a opened up plugin. Well, as long as I can see it, that's the main thing. So I think maybe you're lacking a little bit of sub bass there as well. You've got a really nice prominent kick. So let's go to your bass. I know I don't have all of the plugins, so it could be an issue, but let's have a listen. Okay, I see what the problem might be. So at the moment, your sub bass is sustained. So you've got these long notes here, and your mid bass is like a rolling staccato bass. Your bass line is going to sound so much tighter if it's one or the other. Now, I know that they gave the feedback to have that rolling bass, and I actually agree. I think that sounds really good. But what I would do is I would make my sub bass a rolling bass as well. So to give a quick example, I'm going to just copy what you've done over here, and we're going to create our own bass, kind of like we did on the live group call and the accelerator yesterday. So let's just solo these two tracks. I'm going to create one that's a sub bass. I'm going to work quickly, but this is going to transform the balance of the track. And this is going to be our mid bass. Okay, cool. So you've already got a nice mid bass sound actually, but I don't have Pyros. But we might just keep that. We'll chuck a different one on there. So I'm going to use Serum for this and create something that's going to do that mid bass job. It's just going to augment what you've already done. So you've already got some nice tones in there. So this is just going to be kind of bringing something underneath. This is a real issue with the fact I can't see any of the plugins. What I'm going to do is create a new capture, image capture, Mac OS screen, I guess. Let's try that. So now you can see my screen, and then you should be also able to see, let's just delete this one, remove. And remove that one. Yep. So now you can see the screen. I just want you to be able to see the plugins as well, because it's going to be so much more use if everyone can see that. So if we get that there, I'm going to open up Serum. God, this is a faff, isn't it? Okay, let's go for this. Let's see if Serum opens up and shows. No, why is that not opening? Alright, this is so annoying. Sorry guys. I'm going to display capture. Okay, let's try that. Display capture. Create new. Yes. Ooh, meta. So now I'm going to just record the whole screen. So you're going to see OBS as well. It's okay. We're big boys and girls. We can handle it. Oh, look at that. I've literally just blown my own mind. I don't know what's happening. It's amazing. Right, okay. Now we should be able to see a Serum when I open it up now. It probably means having to restart that computer, doesn't it? There. Can we see Serum? Yeah, tripping. Can everyone see Serum? I'm just looking at it. Yes, we got it. We can see it. Okay, we're there. We are there. Let's do it. Success. And it's gone again. I don't know what. All right, we've got the Serum. I'm going to work. Let's do it. So we got the track. So this is the Serum. So I'm just going to add a little pluck to that filter. We can add some unison to spread it wider. And keep it crunchy. Now what I'm going to do is take out the low end of that. So it's just going to be our mid bass. Okay, so now let's just bring that underneath the rest of our track. So that's off. So now we've got a little bit more energy in that mid-range, that mid bass, and then the second Serum I'm going to open is going to just be the sub bass. So we've rolled off everything under 120 Hertz there, and now we are just going to be dealing with the low frequencies. So let's open up this Serum. It's not going to sound perfect because we're just working with the entire track. So I'll just turn off everything apart from a sine wave, and then let's just have a listen. Turn it down an octave. So it's just the low end. Now bear in mind that the bounced version of the track still has the sustained sub bass. Ideally we wouldn't want that, but let's just have a listen to it with these two extra basses. That's what I would do, Cole. That's all I would do. I would get rid of the sustained sub bass, and with these ones, you're dropping the bass as it hits the kick. Yeah, that makes sense. yeah, to get it out the way of the kick instead of side chaining. Yeah, that works too. Or you could have it hit where the kick is, so it's still going do 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 do, and then you just have the side chain compressor. But you're right, we do teach also to just drop the MIDI note, because what's the point having there? It's going to be completely ducked. But yeah, lovely track that, man, really good. So hopefully that helps, and let's move on to the next one. How about the second drop? Let's go to the second drop. I guess this one. Yeah, great. I mean, same thing really. That's just going to give it more low end weight. And what I would do with the basses as well, even if you are doing the composition and dropping that bass note when the kick hits, I would still have a shaper box or something, so it's just going to add a little bit of shape to some of those notes. Like it's still going to go. It's worth trying anyway. So yes, second drop sounds good, but same thing. The bass line should be the same on both drops, and then the extra energy is coming from your syncopated kind of stab. So yeah, hope that helps. Okay, on to the next one. Then we have got Adrian, who was saying that sound selection is his issue. So let's have a listen, his biggest issue. I'll go back to the chat. Yeah, it's a lovely track, that, Cole. Nice. Cool, so here we go. This is the track. Okay, I'm going to turn off the mastering. Like, first thing I'm going to say straight out the bat is that's a cool lead sound, but your mix is way too loud. So you're kind of peaking at 0 before we've even got the mastering on there. So as I said with the first track we looked at, I would anchor your kick to peak at -12 decibels and then just leave it. And then everything else has to work around that level. So you're recalibrating where you're starting the mix from, because you're going to run into clipping issues because we're already hitting 0 and we haven't even hit the drop yet. But let's continue. That's a really cool lead. Lots of clipping here. So actually, usually when people say they think their problem's mixing, I point them to sound design, sound selection being the issue. But actually, I think the sound selection's pretty good for this genre. You know, I actually think it's the mix that's going to make the difference here. So really quickly, let's just have a look at or a listen to how the difference, how it can sound differently. You've organized it nicely. That makes life easy. So let's bring everything back down to 0. We'll start with the kick, peaking at -12. We'll go to the second drop. So at the moment, let's get it there. Cool. Now, next most important thing is always going to be the bass line, realistically. It sounds like the kick's slightly truncated, like it's going doom and then being cut off suddenly. So if we were to copy this onto a new track, let's have a look and actually look at the waveform, and then we can see. Yeah, no, that's all good. I don't know why I'm hearing that click then. It looks like you're rolling off the low end. That might just, yeah. Oh no, okay, that's something else. That's the drums. Cool, okay. So let's get the bass up there now. So this bass is already, now I've put it way higher than what you had it, and it sounds full, right? So I'm finding that if the bass is kind of, I don't know, I don't want to give any, kind of blanket rules for the sub bass. I'm still working that out. I can't remember, I think I told something to you, Cole, on one of the calls the other week. I can't remember what it was, but there was something that's like, maybe it was -18 average for the sub bass, but then you've got the mid bass as well, and that has to be thought of differently because some tracks will only have sub bass like 808 bass lines, and other tracks will have loads of mid range in their bass like dubstep. So it's only the kick and the sub bass that you can really have a matched level for, and then you can to a degree with stuff like the claps and the hats as well. And I'm just polishing up a guide for the accelerator for that. But that's cool. Next thing would be the lead or the main clap or snare. Okay, it's not there, is it? Unless I'm listening to the wrong thing. Maybe it's melody I should be listening out for. Like at the moment we're peaking at -7.8 and it already sounds bigger, even though we've got a few sounds in there, and that's just balancing those levels. It's all about the balance. It's not like just pushing everything really loud. It's all a matter of perspective. I think that your main clap or snare could do with like a bit more bass in there, perhaps a snare layered with it to give it that kind of feeling as well. And that's going to give it a lot more power. So for example, let's just stick this in there. We'll go drum hits. Let's just find a snare that we can layer that with. Right, that sounds a bit weird, but the point is we want something to satisfy those kind of more bassy frequencies in the snare to make it go like that. So we're going to copy a couple of those and just loop that. You can take the high end out if you want. So this is off. So I agree the sound selection there, you know, has benefited from a little work. And you want to get a track like this, it should sound massive with just like one or two elements. And if you can get the kick and the bass sounding great, which you have, like they work really well together, there's no point moving on in your mix until they are balanced in the way that you want. And then all those effects can be quieter than you think. So we're looking to a balanced mix. If you've got the kick anchored to minus 12 dB, should be hitting around minus 6 on the master channel. It doesn't matter if it's minus 4 or minus 8, you know, roughly around there. And then you're gonna, you know, if it's not hitting those levels with the kick drum anchored to minus 12, then you've almost certainly got an unbalanced mix. So yeah, great track there, really good. Cool, so let's see what's going on. Yeah, I'm seeing loads of messages from Manhattan, New York. That's a bit weird. Don't spam, please. Be cool. Because everyone's here to enjoy themselves and get value. So, next track we are going to look at is... that was Adrian. Next we're going to go to James, who thinks his biggest issue is music theory and arrangement. So that would be, yeah, chords, melodies, and then the actual arrangement. Now for arrangement, always look at using reference tracks. So I see you've done that, which is great. So arrangement, you should be kind of good. That's your guide, using a reference track in the same style. So let's listen to the music theory and see what we can improve here. Ooh, groovy. Yes, mate. Like, that all sounds perfect in terms of music theory. I'd tweak the mix a little bit. Like the hats are too bright. But all your chord stabs and the bass line, they're all grooving together, man. I mean, yeah, I don't think you... it's that open hat, I think. Just putting up the clap slightly. Yeah, and the kick needs to come up as well. So let's see what the kicks say think. So everything, because the kick's already hitting at like minus 10, that tells me everything else in the mix needs to come down a bit. So again, same thing that we looked at before. Let's just silence everything, get that kick hitting. So kick's hitting about minus 12, if we take that down, more or less. Okay, and your reference track is only put down by 5 decibels, not 12. So whenever you compare it, if you haven't put your reference track, which has already been mastered, down by 12 decibels, you're always going to push your mix too loud because yours hasn't been mastered yet. So that's why I dropped the reference track. You also don't have much sub bass. So I would definitely have a separate sub line as well, 100%. So if you were to, let's see, we've got the bass line. I'm just going to do this as we did with Cole's track. Just bring the MIDI down, and we're just going to put different plug-in there. With our bass line here, we've actually rolled off the low end as well. I can see you've got that as a kind of low pass filter, which is cool. But let's just actually filter out the low end just totally in general, under 120 Hertz. So now we've got this. And then our bass line that's actually handling the sub bass is going to be, we could do it with operator, keep it simple. And now we've got sine wave, which is making 0 sound, which I love, wonderful. Why is that not making any sound at all? Maybe it's too low. Don't know, let's see. Should be working. Let's take it out of the kick and bass bus and see what's happening. Okay, I'm not sure what's happening with the routing, but it's not working in there. So now we've got this, if we bring in the sub bass as well, check out the difference it's going to make. And obviously you'd need to process it with the kick and the bass. But now, check out how much more presence you've got with that sub bass. And let's just bring everything else in, but bring it all down because it was all probably mixed a little bit loud. So once again, you know, the sound selection is pretty good. I think your music theory is really good as well. I think, again, you know, it's a matter of balancing the mix. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Cool. So yeah, well, let's move on to the next track, but everyone should find that useful. You know, if you anchor your kick to -12 and you peak it there, put your reference track down to -12. For anyone in the accelerator, you know the X-ray technique will help you kind of pick apart that track. But if you don't start with those two things, -12 reference, -12 kick, it's going to make your life a lot harder to accurately try and gauge your mix. Yeah, lovely groovy track that. Cool, so let's go for Carl and Graham. Balancing the mix, getting the bottom end right. Lovely. Let's open up their track, which I believe is trance, because I checked I could open the project files earlier. Yeah, cool. So, still having a think. It's obviously a pretty weighty project file. Here we go. Some plugins disabled, that's okay, it's all frozen, lovely. So let's have a listen to the track. Ooh, nice. Build. Banger. You know, it sounded good, man. It sounded good. Let me just listen against the reference track. We got that down to -12. It sounded good. Dude, your track sounds better than the reference track. What's the problem? Like, it sounds good. It might just be a matter of kick selection. Let me just... I think your kick could be stronger. I think that's it. Oftentimes, Oftentimes, is that something that English people say? I don't know. It sounds like old style American. Oftentimes, but often switching out the kick for something stronger can actually like make a whole bunch of work redundant. So what I like to do is towards the end of a track, so after you produced everything, just try a couple of other kicks and just see if something just gels even better. Obviously it's better to get a good kick earlier on, and this one's okay, but I think that could be your issue, because if we go to the reference track, let's see if we can pinch this kick. I'm just going to straight up just nick it. Okay. There we go. Although there will be a bunch of extra frequencies in there as well, which isn't great. So now let's go over to your first drop. I've stolen the kick. That's absolutely fine. I'm very comfortable with that. But the issue is, we could run into, where is it? So I'm listening out for a bit where there's, maybe the end of the track. No? I'll just try and grab a kick from here. So I'll just grab that little bit, that sample, we'll go back to the drop with the bass, first drop, here we go. Paste the stolen kick. Just fade it slightly. Hit -12. Yeah, I'm going to have to take some of the high end out of that. I can show you how to steal a kick properly. I'll show you that. So for this top one, we're going to just keep the transient. So that's the first bit, and we're not going to filter out the high end. So that gives us that nice tick still. And we want to use as much of that as we can get away with before it starts sounding like there's tonality to it, like a pitch, where you can hear the other sounds. So that sounds about right. Let's just, and then for this second layer, we can take out the high end. So this is just like the sub rumble. So then together, that sounds awful. There we go, something like that. Maybe yeah, we want it cutting out there. So now, if we just, and again, I wouldn't bother doing this, I'd probably just find a better kick. But now let's just try and switch out these kicks and see if it makes a difference. And this is where we were before. Still sounds great, you know, both of them. This one's just got a little bit more pop through the mix, but your one's got a weightier low end. So maybe you just have these two. No, I'm not a big fan of layering kicks nowadays, unless you're fully nicking it like that. So yeah, that's what I would do, guys. I mean, the bass line sounds great. You got the separate sub. Great. And you've got your mids. Yeah, that's what all I'd say about that. That's an absolute banger. So yeah, that's what I'd say about that. Cool. Yes, Nick in the house. Awesome stuff. So this track is a banger. Well done. The only other thing you could try at this point, because you're already like clearly advanced, is we're going to route the kick and the bass together for the infamous kick and bass bus. And if your mix isn't good already, this is probably just going to confuse you and make your life harder. But you can then gel the kick and the bass together. I've got a message. Let's see what the message is. Nick is on the stream. Yeah, I know that. Thank you. Hi, Nick. Cool. So yeah, this is what I would like suggest at this point. You can do a bit of compression and a bit of saturation. So I'm just going to throw the drum bus on there because that can quite often sound, you have to be careful because it does a lot of messing up with the low end sometimes. But you can just use this dry wet control to feed a little bit of it in. So that's where we were, and that's where we are. Just like heavy blood, heavy. And then we go back to the other kick and it's not working anymore. So we need those kicks still. Yeah, taxi. So yeah, that's what I would suggest at your level. The boom is kind of like accentuating those subharmonics in the same way that Bark of Dog does, or in a similar way. So that's one thing that you can do to enhance the kick and bass. Like from that to that. The other thing you can consider is a bit of glue compression as well. Allow the initial transient to pop through with a 30 millisecond attack. And then just look for 1 or 2 dB of gain reduction. And then put the makeup back up. So together, you've gone from this and if it starts getting a bit loud, you can bring back the levels like with a utility. Just bring it down on a decibel or two, because what we're really looking for is not to increase the peak volume, but to increase the average volume, and that's how you can really get that lovely solid chunk of low end. Yeah, so that's a lovely track though. Great work. Cool. So let's see what. Whoa. Let's see what's going on here in the old Chatteroony. Oh no, there are commercial breaks happening. Really? On a live stream? Sorry about that, guys. I do not know why that's happening. Yeah, it shouldn't be. That's annoying. Can I pause that? Delay ads. Delay ads. I'm delaying the ads. Hopefully that works. All right. Cool. So next track is, we've got another accelerator student, Bogdan, and his weak point that he's self-analyzed is transitions and excitement. So let's have a listen. It's just loading up. And whilst it's loading up, I'll have a look in the chat. Okay, let's see. Cool. So let's have a listen. Transitions and excitement. Love that. That phase pad. I'm going to bring that down a bit. Yeah, so transitions and excitement, a couple of techniques you can use here. What we're trying to do with transitions is once we've got the contrast between the two sections of the track working well, so that would be really the contrast between like the breaks, the build, and then the drop is the most full of excitement part. The transitions are to kind of smooth those together. So if you think about creating like a sculpture, first you do it in the big blocks, and then once it's all done, you kind of smooth all the bits together, and that's what the transitions are for. It's to just kind of tie it into a smooth story, like segues between different sections of a movie, for example. So there's a couple of ways you can do it, and one of the best ways is to use the sounds that are part of your track as the source for some of these transition effects, because it just brings this cohesion to the track. So instead of always reaching for like transition sweeps and risers from sample packs, if you can like extend the reverb of one of your sounds or create this elongated delay that just kind of loops over time, then it just makes it all sound really cohesive. So I think your mix has got a bit of an issue. You know, you can balance the levels a bit better. Which we've kind of looked at today already a couple of times. But another thing I've noticed is that your sweep is quite loud. And this is, again, very common. People will not only usually put their hats too loud in the mix, they'll often put their effects too loud in the mix. But my rule of thumb is you basically want your effects to be as quiet as possible while still getting the job done. So then when everything else is done right in the mix, I'll bring up the effects and the risers from silent until it's like, oh, now it's doing its job. And then that's as loud as I put it. Because everything you put loud is going to be taking away from the most important elements, which is going to be the kick, the bass, the main clap or snare, you know, the core elements of your track. And all the other stuff, the ear candy and the risers, that needs to be kind of quiet and put back in the mix to a large degree. So let's find out where that riser is. Just here. So something I think that would just kind of work well in this track in general is you've got this cool syncopated groove with the bass line and the chords. So to build excitement, and again, you know, use your reference tracks for this, but something that would work really well on this track is just like an ongoing syncopated synth, just going beep, 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 kind of like Camel Fat. I can't remember which tune I'm thinking of. But if we were to just program that in really quickly, it's going to be sounding like... That's really loud. Let's put it down to -10. So if we just copy that onto every 2/16, just ongoing like so, it's going to create this syncopated feeling. And then you could carry that on into your break as you build, or just start it in the break, like so. So say you start it here, and that's going to lead into your drop. So you can either, well, you can do both. You can add delay to the last thing that happens before your break. So like that, where is it? The kind of high up thing. where is it? It is going atmosphere maybe. So there, I would have that kind of delay off slightly. So you could send out to an auxiliary channel with a delay that just allows it to kind of die down over a longer period of time in the break, because it just cuts off suddenly. And then you can, as that's dying down, you bring the other thing up underneath it. So one thing's doing this, and then the other thing's doing this at the same time. So for example, with this beep, 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 so you bring the filter down on it, and then it's just doing this. But you can automate different things in this at the same time. You know, it's going to make it sound more interesting. Like movement and interest is really important. So you make, like you're automating that. It just creates this slight interesting movement. So now let's have a listen to that build with that added. Let's add some reverb. There you go. That's a groove. So I actually just think you needed one more element like that in the track. And then, you know, look at the mix as well, as we talked about earlier. Get that kick peaking at -12. Let's see where we're hitting at the moment with that, actually. I think it's just the drums are a little loud. Yeah, so that's what I would do anyway. That's a real sick little track there. Love it. Small things make a big difference. Cool. Okay, on to the next one. Let's go. That is Onre as well. Actually, we won't do Onre because we've just done the accelerator student. Let's go first to, we'll go back to Onre in a minute. Let's go to Adam, who is struggling with mastering. When people say that, like that, my alarm bells start ringing, because it's usually the mix or the sound selection or anything other than mastering, basically. Because people will often think that mastering is going to make their track sound great, but mastering really should just make it sound absolutely freaking amazing, like the last couple of percent, if you get the mix right. So let's have a listen to the track. Cool. Let's just turn this down for a sec. Yeah, so it's the mix more than the master. So let's just turn off some of this stuff. That's a cool groove. The kick is very, like, I would not do this kind of cut on a kick. I would leave the kick with its frequencies going right down. And you've taken out all of the high end in the kick as well. Let's just have a listen to this. So I'd probably have it more like that. And then the bass was a bit loud. But let's get that kick peaking at -12. Otherwise we're going to run into clipping issues. So yeah, that balance should be a bit better. As I said, like if you can get something grooving with just the kick and the bass, and this is a groovy track, and you get the balance of levels right, it should make you want to have a little dance before you've really done anything fancy. So now let's get the main clap and snare in there. That's cool drums. It's like Rip Groove by Double 99. Love that track. I still think the hats are a little bit loud, maybe. And what you've done here is you've automated the tracks, the track faders, and that makes mixing really hard because then you've got to go in there and kind of try and create nodes. Now, if you've done that, then the only real way to mix after that is to use a utility plugin at the end of the channel and use that as you would the channel fader. So I would always opt for automating volume using a utility or a gain plugin if you're not using Ableton, and then just leave the automation off of these channel faders, because it just, if you try and drag this down, the automation is going to pull it back to where you had it before. But I think you'll find that that's going to be better. Let's hear. And I'd probably, again, just try switching out to another kick, Will Kick 3, because I think it's just going to help it just bang a bit more. Let's see if we can get a toppy kind of layer in there on the kick. Oof, that's loud. Let's chuck it in there. Why not, eh? And I'm going to take out the low end of this because you've already got the low end from your kick. And again, I wouldn't really recommend kick layering. I've just learnt over the years that it's usually more trouble than it's worth. So if you can just cycle through a few kicks and write down the ones you think work best, and just by process of elimination, pick one that sounds really good. And if you've got the Ultimate EDM Tips kick pack, it's probably going to be kick 3. Depends on the genre, to be honest. So I just think you need a bit of toppiness in that kick should help, like so. That's a really cool bass line. It's very mono. Like the actual sub bass being mono is fine. That's what we want. But I think this mid bass could be spread out wide and give it a real nice feel. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I would do it within the sound design itself, but for the sake of doing it after the fact, I'm just going to open the imager, and I'm just going to spread out the mid bass. I'll leave the sub bass nice and mono because that's working well, like so. So let's split this. We got everything below about 100, 120 or so. I'm just going to spread out the top bit. And we can see it's completely mono going into it. So there's no stereo information to spread. So I'm going to stereoize it, which is going to artificially create some stereo field. So I think that sounds way better, just having a little bit of stereo width in your mid bass. And yeah, great track. And I haven't even touched the mastering. Like, what I found is, if you want to get something that's done as a quick master, yeah, we have a really good, in-depth, professional mastering module in the accelerator, courtesy of Nick. that goes really in depth into a lot of things. But if you want a real, I've produced a track, I want to play it out, or I want to get it to a DJ straight away, this is what I do. So I get a saturator on there, or Oxford inflator if you've got it. I choose soft sine, listen to the difference. Just adds a little bit of excitement. Then I get a glue compressor on there, or the SSL from Waves if you've got that. I'm going to put a 30 millisecond attack. Again, no more than 2.5 dBs of gain reduction. And then the last thing I do is put the Pro L2 on there and look for about 6 or 7 dB of gain reduction. And you're going to have a master that sounds all right, you know, if your mix is done well. So this was a mix issue, and to a degree a sound selection issue. So hopefully that helps. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Why does that still work in a mono in a club, Will? Does that still work? Like most clubs now have got stereo sound for sure, but still sub bass and low frequencies are, what's the word? Not monophonic, what's it called? They sound like they're coming from one direction anyway, right? It's very hard to tell where sub bass is coming from. It's just there in your body. And having stereo feel in the sub bass, you can do it for sure. You just have to be very careful, because if you get phase cancellation with those really big waves, if you think of literally waves in a swimming pool, you know, if you like jump in, waves go to the end and then they bounce back and they'll cancel out those other waves and then there won't be any waves. That's exactly what happens with sound waves. So we want to avoid that happening with any low frequencies, because if you get the sub bass sucked out of your track in a club, you will know about it, you know. If a couple of the hi-hats kind of have a slight phasing effect, it doesn't really matter. But if you do that with any sub bass or the kicks, you'll hear it in the club and it will sound rubbish. So that's why we aim to have a nice mono tight sub bass. As I said, you can create stereo sub bass, some producers do, but just do it with caution and test it in mono. Sum everything to mono when you've done it and just be like, okay, is that still working? Cool. So next track, boom. We have got, whoops. And I said we go to Onre next, so let's go there. And we'll do the most recently edited, so Letang. And Onre is questioning mixing, which is good. Unless it's sound design, but let's have a listen. And sound selection. So let's have a listen to the track. Oof, that's loud. I'm going to turn off all of this. Don't want the mastering. If you're trying to figure out the mix, turn everything else off on your master channel. Wow, that's very loud still. I think your mix is a bit loud. That's the first thing I'll say. So, yeah, well, there's some, what I would do is get your kick peaking at -12. Wow, that's a beast of a kick then. That is -12, nice. And then I would bring in, let's turn off these other sounds. We'll bring everything down. I'm going to just leave everything in their groups for the time being and try and organize this. And let's get these really out the way as well. again, we've got a truncated kick that's happening. So it sounds like, and why is the bass, I've turned the bass down, but why is the bass coming out on the drop there? Okay, it's a random group. It's down as brass. Okay, cool. So bass would be the next thing, but that kick does sound truncated slightly. So let's unfreeze it. That's this one, okay. So I've just turned snap off because it was kind of chopping the sample off just before the end. That's actually happens quite a lot. And you can just hear a tiny click at the end, which we don't want. Cool, now let's bring up the bass. And if it sounds too quiet, just turn your monitoring up, you know, that's all I've just done as well. And now we're going to go for the main clap or snare, which would probably be, where would that be? Drum rack. Okay, cool. I mean, usually the hat would duck slightly when the kick's playing, otherwise it kind of fights with the kick. So that's something that you could consider as well from a compositions perspective. So if we go into the hi-hat loop down here, you know, if we take this out, it's going to allow your kick to kind of sound bigger because it's not then having to fight with the hat. So that's what I would do, you know. I would have my hats like that. It's just going to allow your kick to kind of pop through a bit more. Cool, and then after that it's bringing in everything else in order of importance. So once you've got that main stuff in, okay. So yeah, that's what I would do with the mix really. You weren't a million miles away, it's just rebalancing. And the trouble is, once you've pushed one thing really a bit too loud, you want to push everything else louder and louder so you can hear it in the mix. And then you just end up in this race to have everything be the loud thing. But if everything's loud, then nothing's loud because you have to turn the whole thing down. So as I mentioned earlier, it's all a matter of perspective. Yeah, cool. So hopefully that one's useful. But what I would do is, yeah, what I would do for that Onre is just start from the basics with the mix. You can save it, just duplicate it, and it's going to sound a ton better with just that slight rebalancing. Cool. Okay, let's go to Marcel and then David. So Marcel is mixing and mastering. Thanks for joining, everyone. It's really nice to do a live stream. It's been a while. I mean, we do them twice a week we do them twice a week in the accelerator, and we do them on Tuneful Tuesdays, but it's not the same as on YouTube, because YouTube is like seen by loads of people. I mean, this will get loads of views after the fact as well. Well, the last one did anyway. So let's open this one. Cool, let's have a listen. Let's see what's going on. I'm going to turn off the mastering. Pro L2, that's a goodie. That's a lovely thump thump pluck sound. So we've got a syncopated synth like I did earlier. That's a coincidence. Okay, the first thing I would do is sort out the tuning on some of those harmonies, because you've got a really nice chord progression there and a really cool idea with the vocals, but a couple of the harmonies are out of tune from the key of the track, and that's the, unless you sort that out, the mix doesn't even matter. I packed my bags and catching a fly. I thought they were all... Oh yeah, right. So I'd listen to that with the chords. Where are the chords? There we go. So that's in tune. I'll find you, yeah, I'll find you if it's all the last thing I do. I love the syncopated groove to those vocals. So this next one though. I packed my bags and catching a flight. I will be before the end of the night. I'll find you, yeah, I'll find you. It's all the last thing I do. So what I can see what's happened here. You've created your own harmonies by dropping this 6 semitones. The trouble is that some of the new notes that it's hitting won't be in the key of the track because of the way that scales work, right? So you're going to transpose it down. Most of them will work, but some of them won't. So let's just go in and tune the ones that aren't working. So you need to make sure all of these notes, every note that he's singing, has to be from the key of the chords. And if they're not, then you're going to get this slightly discordant feeling. Now, at that point, it goes wrong. So this work. That one little bit, that is wrong there. So you can move it down or up, doesn't matter as long as it's then in the key. So now it's in tune. And again there, when he goes up, and you can... So there it works as well. So now this first bit should be in tune with the rest of the harmonies. I packed my bags and catching a flight. I will be before the end. I packed my bags and this is how it was before. I will be before the end. I packed my bags and catching. Some of them work. I will be before the end. I packed my bags and catching. I know it was on -6 before, wasn't it? Now I've turned the volume up, you can hear that some of those notes aren't working when it's tuned to -6. So that's what I would do. I would first, and it's going to be painstaking, but it's going to be worth it because that's really cool. And it's going to work really well when you've got that nailed down. In terms of the mix, same thing that I've already been talking about. Just take everything down to 0, duplicate the project, anchor that kick at -12 as peak, because I can hear that your skills are there. You know, you've got some skills. Let's turn off the vocals because I've pushed them up really loud, you know, for that experiment. So yeah, your mix was too loud, I think, though. I know, maybe not. But either way, you want to get your kick peaking at -12. I might even choose a different kick drum. I think that could really help as well. It's just a bit kind of flat. So this is one of those examples where I actually think wheel kick 3 will work. Genuinely, I'm not just saying that so I can use it. Okay, so if we had that peaking at -12. And let's try now. But I would mix the kick and the bass together. Then I would get the main clap working with those things. And then I would get the rest of the drums in there. And then I would go for those chord stabs. And at every point in that process, don't progress until you've got those elements sounding balanced and working well together. But the key is get that kick hitting at -12 dB and use that as your low, like your not yardstick, your North Star, if you will. That's not even the term, your foundation, okay? So yeah, that's what I would suggest, but it's a cool track, very cool, and you're not a million miles away at all. Oh, live streaming stopped. Is everyone still there? I think my webpage just crashed. Ah. What's happened? Is everyone still there? Okay, that was random. The webpage crashed. Anyway, yeah, that's it, guys and girls. Thank you very, very much for joining me. If you didn't have your track given feedback and you would like feedback like that, well, that's what we do in the accelerator. We have one-on-one calls where we can actually just dive in one-on-one, spend an hour together. We've got an incredible team that's taken years to build up, some of the best producers in the world, and I'm honoured to work with them. And yeah, we get our students' results, so you can check out the details. We've got a link there that Mr. Brown Alliance has very kindly put. But over and above that, just keep enjoying the free videos. If you're in the Radio Ready program, keep using Tuneful Tuesday, and yeah, keep on producing. I've got a good video coming out for you this Friday, and yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. We'll do another one as well soon. I think I'll do another workshop in a couple of weeks because I really want to push that forward this year because I enjoy engaging, and it's good. I just need to finish setting up this new studio. So yeah, cool. All right, thanks everyone. Well, have a lovely day, and I will catch you soon. Ciao.